Live. Okay, Hare Krishna, everyone. Dandavat Pranam. My name is Anuradha Dasi. I have the great fortune of being able to present someone who my family has known since she was little. Her name is Madhavi Devi Dasi. She is a disciple of, sorry, I'm going to put you on the spotlight, but she is a disciple of Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayana Maharaj, born and raised in Krishna consciousness or Bhakti Yoga. And she is really just an amazing personality, a very, very sweet personality, has tremendous amount of depth to her. And also very humble as well. You won't ever see her glorify herself, only glorify her teachers. I wanted to just sort of introduce this endeavor of what we're doing with Youth Seva team. So we are basically engaged in providing service really to that is practical and meaningful and relatable for those practitioners of Bhakti Yoga. And so this first endeavor, it's the Vedic Health Collective. First person who I thought of was Madhavi. And the idea really behind this is to facilitate health in devotee communities in the best way that we know how. And one of the ways of doing this is through, clinical psychology, through mental health, which Didi is very well acquainted with and has many years of expertise of. So this is really her realm, and we have other sessions coming up in September and then October with other esteemed speakers. So we're very, very honored to have her. Really, without further ado, I'm just going to let her take the floor. If you guys have any questions at any point, feel free to just post it in the chat. And then we're also going to have like breakout sessions in between where Didi will also open the floor for discussion. So Didi, take it away. Oh, you just have to.
Okay, that's right. I have to talk loud. So too loud, someone just yell at me and say I'm talking too loud. Thank you, Anuradha, your very sweet introduction. And before we begin, I'd just like to offer pranams to like a
Oh, Didi, if you could speak up a little bit more.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't hear you.
Okay, is this better?
Yeah, it's better.
Yes. Okay, so before I begin, I'm going to say a prayer and invocation for my spiritual teacher, my guru, my guardian, just honoring him and asking him to guide me today in
floor.
Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chak.
Didi, sorry, some of your audio is cutting out.
I'm gonna try it with my computer mic. You tell me, is this better?
Oh, that's like tremendous.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right, I guess the headphones were
Like a day and night difference.
Okay, good. Okay. I'd like to thank all of you for joining me today and giving me the opportunity to share some tools and tricks that I've learned over the years that have personally helped me go through some hard, stressful events in life. And I've been sharing this for about 14 years now, and with groups and individuals, and I've seen the benefit just time and again. And it's something so simple, but very, very powerful. And the first thing I wanted to bring up is that everything has sound vibration. Everything has a frequency. So it's not like modern science will tell you this, and our Vedic literature also says that everything is coming from this sound vibration. So if everything is coming from sound, then what we say, what we speak, that's also the TV, the phone, right, the radio, all of this is sound vibration coming into the world. And so our ancient scriptures, they talk about chanting this Maha Mantra, and I think most of you here have heard it and have somehow connected with this mantra. But the reason that we're chanting this mantra is to essentially clean the pollution of the environment. It's essentially to clean the energy of this material world, to cleanse ourselves of this negative energy that we're in, and also to clear and cleanse our environment and the other souls around us. So before we begin, if you all would like to chant with me, we'll just chant a couple Maha Mantras to help clear away the day and any negative vibrations, and also to pray that whatever negative energy that we have inside of ourselves, that we can offer it to the divine, to Krishna, and also that we can become purified so that we can realize the divine as well. So if we can all chant together for a moment. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama,
Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna,
Krishna Krishna,
Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So a little bit about my trainings and my studies. In 1999, I was fortunate enough to meet my spiritual master, Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. And I was 19 and kind of on a search for spiritual discovery when I met him. And I was fortunate enough to have some money saved and to be able to travel with him for, I traveled and then I worked and then I traveled. So on and off for about 4.5 years, I was traveling all over the world and living on and off in India and studying bhakti yoga with him. And there were so many beautiful experiences and teachings. And when I stopped traveling and I was home, then it became time to really put into practice what I learned. Like, how do I apply this amazing and beautiful wisdom in my life today? How do I apply it when my baby is screaming in the middle of the night and I just want her to go to bed? How do I apply it when, I got to cook breakfast, lunch, and dinner and work and so many things? So it became an interest of mine and a passion to take these teachings that I was told, and then to see what could I apply in my day-to-day life. So of course, one thing was chanting Maha Mantra. Maha Mantra is so powerful. And man means mind, and tra means to control. So I don't want to speak for everyone, but I'm sure many of you have experienced your mind seemingly out of control. And our Bhagavad Gita describes it like wild horses running. And it's why, because our mind is being pulled by our senses. We want to see beautiful things. We want to taste nice things. We want to feel a certain way. And so our mind is pulling us, oh, do this, then you'll be happy. Do this, try this, then you'll be happy, then you'll be happy. And so the mind is uncontrolled. So mantra is to repeat, say over and over again to control the mind. And so lots of people, all of us actually, when we're young, we get impressions from our parents and from our friends. and we develop internal belief systems about ourselves. And because our mind tells us these things, we think that's fact, that's reality. Whatever it is, it could be, I'm a great at this thing, or I'm a man, or I'm a woman, or I'm a daughter, or I'm really bad at math, right? We have so many, it could be little or big things, but we get these impressions, and then those things repeat over and over again in the mind. So those are like mantras. Those things are like mantras. And those are mantras that we're repeating again and again. So the Maha Mantra is a very powerful mantra. And it is said that just like a baby cries for its mother, right? And then the mother, it can't help but come and take care of the baby. It can't, it's just the nature of the mother when it hears a child crying, oh, I have to go take care of this baby. So in our suffering in this world, no one tries for suffering. No one goes looking for misery, but somehow or other, suffering comes, happiness comes. So we can cry, we can chant this mantra, and we can pray for the divine, for Shri Shri Radha and Krishna. We can pray for their mercy like children. Help me, help me. And they become attracted by this. The divine, Radha and Krishna, they can't help, their heart can't help but melt when they see us calling in this way. So, like I said, suffering is coming. And so if we have tools and we have something that we can do when that suffering comes, then it's the nature of our mind, especially in Western society, we have to do something or we feel like something's not right. We will do. So if we have something to do when that suffering comes, one thing is this chanting of Maha Mantra and really praying for help, like a child would to its parent. Help me, please, help me, help me, help me. And if any of you, I know many of you are already chanting, and if any of you are not chanting, I just really suggest you take a moment and when you're feeling upset and try it like an experiment. Just try. Just when you feel bad, just chant this mantra and you'll see like something will happen. It's magical. So when I stopped traveling with my guru, for a time, I stopped my chanting and I was absorbed in babies and diapers and all kinds of things. And also stress, of course, was coming. And then, of course, I remembered, hey, let me try this again. Like I'm having a hard time here. Let me try to chant. And I noticed when I chanted and when I didn't chant, how life was different. I saw it. I saw it practically. And I'm a very practical person. Like if I'm going to do something, I want to see results. That's just how I'm not going to do it. But through this practice, I've seen things happen, and not only just externally, but just internally, that even though so many things were happening, that I was able to maybe handle things a little bit better by this chanting, that my mind became more peaceful and I became more calm. So for me, the foundation of any healing practice, of anything that we're doing, it starts with this Maha Mantra. It is the most powerful tool in this world to help alleviate the suffering, our suffering, the suffering of others, and to cleanse the environment. And it is a transcendental sound. It is a spiritual sound. It's coming from a spiritual place. And so when we're chanting out loud, then we're also purifying our environment. And these days, I think we all really want that. With everything going, I don't think anyone can argue with the state of the world. And this particular day and age is called Kali Yuga. And this is the age of quarrel. Quarrel means like fighting, quarrel, and hypocrisy. So if anyone doesn't see that in this world, I'm sure you all see it. And where women and children are unprotected. And so we can also see that the things that are happening in this age is a sign of the times, and our Vedic scriptures have spoken about it, how it's a hard time. It's a hard time to be living. It's a hard time to be human. It's a hard time to want to, be more spiritual. It's difficult. So if there's anything that we can do that can help us along individually and as a community, then this is one very powerful, powerful thing. And if you do it, if you practice yourself, then also, you know, you can share it, because the more people that share this mantra and chant this mantra, the more purity will come into the world, the more good energy will come into the world. And hopefully maybe we can like stave off some of these negative effects that are happening right now. So for me, this mantra is the foundation for any work that I do, anything that I'm doing, is this prayer and this mantra. And then, so after I stopped traveling with my guru, a few years, maybe about 2.5 years later, 2 years later, I attended the Florida Institute of Hypnotherapy. And it was over a 600-hour course. And I finished that as a clinical hypnotherapist. And one of the tools that I learned in this course was called Breathwork. And while I think hypnotherapy is very powerful and it can be an amazing healing tool, the breathwork I found got me out of my intellect, got me out of my head, and really helped me to dive into my emotional self or emotional body. And sometimes, actually, most of us growing up and in our society are told you shouldn't feel a particular way or you shouldn't act a particular way. And we end up holding so much inside. We don't even realize. And not only is it just in our life, but when we're in the womb of our mother, if she's afraid or she's stressed, those hormones actually enter our body at that time. So we're not even dealing with like, I'm a grown up now and I have life stress. We're dealing with from the womb stress. And if we look at past life, then we can say we're looking at lifetimes and lifetimes of stress and fear and worry. So how do we, how do we remove this fear? It's coming no matter what, this stress, this fear. And what I learned with breathing is that, and in my hypnotherapy courses, when we're stressed and when we're afraid, we, right? Something happens. Oh my God, right? So we tense and we hold and we inhale and we keep that bottled up inside. We either suppress or repress these things, or we express them. It's you, it's this other thing. But neither way, suppressing or expressing, neither one really addresses the root of what's going on. It doesn't really resolve anything. We can blame till the cows come home, but does it affect that person or thing we're blaming? No, that feeling is still residing within us. And if we repress or suppress, then we end up holding it in. And I like to give the analogy of like Eeyore from Winnie the Pooh. He always has like that rain cloud over his head and just, this is just the way things are, right? Oh, my tail fell off. Oh, well. So we don't want to keep the rain cloud over our head. We don't want gray skies all the time. Everyone wants to be happy. Everyone wants love and affection. It is a nature of the soul to want love and affection, except we're looking for love in all the wrong places. We're looking from outside. So, oh, Nishringa just commented. Yeah, the cloud just follows Eeyore around all the time. So we all have like this baggage from lifetimes, essentially, or from this lifetime. And so those things, those breaths, everything, it stays held in within us. And what I found is through breathing, deep breathing, and we're going to practice it in a little bit, it helps to alleviate that stress. It, without any type of like, I have to think about this thing, like when we do therapy and we talk about our problems over and over again, which I'm not dissing therapy. I think therapy is great. But it is a lot in the head. And with the breath, it's moving, where's the stress in my body? Where am I holding my tension? Where does it hurt? Where am I uncomfortable? And then Really deep breath in. And what are we doing? We're pushing against that pressure. We're pushing against that tension, and we're making a space in our body for those things to come up and out. And the other thing is, I said in the beginning, everything has a frequency, everything has a sound vibration. So the things inside of us also have sound. And as we're breathing into our body, it's coming out, it's coming through our throat. This is where we communicate. This is where we express things. And often those stressors are not communicated. So another thing that I incorporate into the breathing is called toning. And it's just making noise. It's breathing in and then letting out a sound. And it can be a high or a low. It can sound ugly or pretty. It doesn't matter. It's just what's going on inside of me and what sound does that need to make to come out. And I'm letting it out. So that's a very, and we'll practice so you'll get to feel it a little bit, but that's a really simplified version. So I've kind of spoken a little bit, and I want to just pause for some questions, and then we can maybe do some breathing, and then I'll talk more. And this is going to be like a interactive process.
I have a question. So is breath work another form of diaphragmatic breathing, or do you utilize diaphragmatic breathing in your breath work?
Essentially, breath work is diaphragmatic breathing.
Okay.
We're breathing like, so singers, swimmers, and babies are the only ones that like really breathe properly. If you look at a baby when it's laying down, you'll see that the belly and the chest both rise on the inhale and soften on the exhale. And so the difference between, okay, I'll answer your question in a minute, Nishinga. So yeah, and then singers also, in order to get like to belt out the song, they have to take that really deep breath, and then swimmers too. But a lot of us, we're shallow breathers, and we might only breathe into our belly. We might only breathe into our chest. And a lot of the elderly, if you look at them, they only breathe and their shoulders just come up. They're not even getting the oxygen into their body. It's just into their shoulders.
Yeah.
And the Shringa, as far as pranayam and breath work, I have not fully studied pranayam. And I did speak with one person who did, and he told me that I'll be honest, he told me that this was bogus. There's no pranayam practice like this and blah, blah, blah. And that was fine. You know, everyone's entitled to their opinion. I just know that after 14 years of doing this specific type, that it's helped so many people that the benefit is obvious. So as far as like specifics of the difference, there's a lot of different breathing practices in pranayam, and there are a lot for very specific things. And breath work, essentially for me, breath work is just removing the stress, the tension, traumas, letting them go so that I can be more clear, and so that I can, you know, practice my spiritual life without the burden of like negative emotions, essentially.
Can I say something?
Mm-hmm.
Hi, Madhavi. Hare
Hi.
Krishna. I work with people in early recovery. And what I find is, well, a lot of them smoke cigarettes,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe have just stopped, and are afraid to look inside. And they're just focused out and really not peaceful. So we do breath work and regularly in my groups with them in my individual sessions, and it's invaluable. I mean, there's just nothing to compare. And like everyone has their breath, and I say it's natural, it's free, and it won't get you in trouble. There's a high there. There's a natural high that comes from really breathing well.
Mm-hmm.
And it can calm you down or it can energize you. There's so many ways to use the breath.
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't trained in many years. I was a yoga teacher in the 70s.
Mhm.
But I haven't really done any formal training, so I'm happy to be with you today. And I just want to say that, I mean, this is not just our teachings, but all the teachings of the world say the kingdom of God is within, right?
Mhm.
So we know that we have to be able to go within to access our wisdom, you know, our wise mind, our good thinking, and breath work is so invaluable to do that, to access wise mind and become in touch with that wisdom within us. So I'm really happy to be here today and see what you're teaching and add to my repertoire.
Thank you. I'm so glad. I'm so glad you're sharing breath work. It's extremely powerful. And it shifts our nervous system from fight or flight to rest and digest. Essentially from stress to relax. Breath. But what does that mean? It's not just one deep breath. It means keep taking a deep breath until you feel that calm, until you feel that switch. And that's the really amazing thing about breath work, is that just what it does on a physical level to our body, it forces us to relax. So it's like, I can't relax, I can't relax. No, you just need to breathe. And I've had people like at the end of a session be like, oh my God, I cannot believe I just paid to have you teach me to breathe. But it was worth it. You know, it's like, oh, this was so good. But it's something, you know, that we can all do. We're all doing it all the time anyway. So now it's just about becoming more aware of it and how we're breathing when we're stressed, and then learning to recognize it and then to shift out of it when we need to. So the other one thing I want to mention, and not that I'm encouraging anyone to cry, but if you feel like crying, that's great, is that I've learned recently that, okay, so there's 3 types of tears. One type of tear is our blinking tears. Another type of tear is when we have an irritant in our eye. And the third is when we're crying. So when we're stressed, there's a hormone that builds up in the brain called cortisol. And doctors will tell you 100% stress equals illness. Stress causes illness. What does that mean biologically? It means that that stress hormone, cortisol, is building up in our brain, getting into our bloodstream and making us sick. So how do we get rid of cortisol from the brain? Our tears, when we cry, are 80% cortisol. Just take that in, 80% cortisol, stress hormone. So no one walks around holding in their pee and poo saying, I'm too strong for that and I don't need to do that and I'm so great because I hold all that in, right? No, people would think you're insane. So holding in your tears, holding back your tears is holding in sickness. It's holding in what your body needs to detoxify from. So if something can get you to cry, do it. Let it out. Make it worse. Sob, whatever you can do, because if you've ever had a good cry, you'll see how much better you feel afterwards. You feel better after you cry. You get a good night's sleep. Like babies, when they throw tantrums, or toddlers, they'll like lose it completely. And then they just plop down and that's it. They're out. You know, they're just knocked out asleep. Why? Because all of that stress is now eliminated from their brain or our brains, and we can be calm. So my method is chant, pray, cry, breathe, repeat in one of those orders, whatever order. But just being aware. And if we're in a prayerful mood and we're crying and we're able to breathe and really get into it and then be in that prayerful mood, calling out to the divine, to Radha and Krishna, help me, then that's powerful. it's a powerful experience, and it's real, and our guardians can't help but respond. And that's a fact. And so when I'm asking you all, you know, when you're at home or whatever, just try it. Just try. Chant, breathe, cry, pray, repeat, and just see what happens. Just notice how the environment shifts, or how the mind shifts, or how something magical happens, because it works. So I guess I'm going to set a little timer, and we're going to do 3 minutes of breathing.
Sorry, Didi, I just had one question. So you said that the 3 types of tears are blinking. It was the irritant in the eye, and then it was also actual crying. And then you're saying that the 80% cortisol is in the crying one, or is in
the crying one?
3? Oh,
The crying one.
So could I ask before we go on, what is the difference between just like the blinking, I understand about the irritant, but the blinking and the crying?
It said that different tears have different, like, you know, it was a scientific article, so like I don't honestly remember, like, but if you Google like tears, cortisol, crying, but essentially it was saying that the different tears have different chemical components. And that crying tears have this cortisol in them, and and if you look up like the medical benefits of crying, there's so much. There's so much out there, and we're in a society where, you know, everything's fine. Hello, hi, how are you? Good, right? It's all like this superficial thing, and so we're not really taught, even from our childhood, that it's acceptable to be sad. It's like nobody wants to be sad. Don't be sad. But actually, if we're just present with that sadness, and we just sit with it, and we just allow it, and we don't run from it, because you can't really run from it. Like, if we're sad, it's in there, even if it's like tucked, pushed down, and you know, we're distracting ourselves, it's still there, and it still affects us. So if we have an opportunity to sit with ourselves and to feel that sadness, a lot of people are scared to, because it's like, oh, it'll never end, or if I cry, I won't stop crying, or whatever. But really, and when we sit with it, my hypnotherapy teacher would say, like, breath work is just burning it up, sitting in the fire and just burning it up, just allowing it. And so not everybody cries during breath work. Some people laugh, some people, you know, the range is all there of all emotions. But I really feel that, you know, knowing this about tears and knowing it about crying is really important, like, for our society to know it's okay. Take some time, sit down.
Can I say something about the cortisol? This is my field. And, you know, trauma brings on this stress hormone, cortisol, so that we can deal with crises. But what happens nowadays is that because there's so much stress in our environment, friends, that we're always emitting cortisol. Cortisol is bathing our organs all the time if we're stressed. So that's the importance of doing breathing, of relaxing, of eliminating the cortisol, and not because it is poison. It's toxic. You know, it's for fight or flight, for crises, to run from a tiger. You know what I mean? Or to run from a burning building. But our bodies aren't meant to be bathed in cortisol all the time. Bad news and stress from the environment and fires. There's so much reason now. People are stressed a lot. It's not healthy, like you say. So what you're teaching us is how to de-stress and get rid of that cortisol so that we don't shorten our lifespan and become unhealthy.
Yes. Thank you. Anuradha, you want to?
Yeah, so I also love this topic too, because I deal with it so much, you know, in physical therapy, where you have people with chronic pain and they have the whole gamut of comorbidities. They've had a stroke, they've had a history of cancer, they have heart disease, they have diabetes, they have a whole trifecta. And then now with big pharma, they're doing damage control. Hey, let's put a whole bunch of opiates, let's put pain meds, let's, go to physical therapy, before you get your pain medications and all this other stuff. So this is oftentimes people, they figure out so much later on the idea behind what healthcare actually is, and really shifting. So what you're doing is actual healthcare. And you don't have to have a doctorate to practice healthcare. And that's the beauty of it, is that what so many physicians are doing is, and I hate to say it, it's criminal, but hey, someone has to say it. So I'll put the floor back on you. Sorry.
Just cut this part out of the YouTube.
I don't want to get found and then shot. So. Go ahead. Sorry, Didi.
No, thank you. No, it's true. We're not, if we were taught from childhood how to manage stress, how to communicate lovingly, how to deal with trauma, like our world would be a completely different place, and so for me, like teaching this and sharing this is just, the more people that know that they can feel better with air, just by breathing. It's like, it's ridiculous. It's like, to me, it's like absurd, that I'm teaching people how to breathe, but it's amazing at the same time. I feel honored, to be able to do this and share this. I've seen, I had one client who was a young teenager who had like severe aggressive arthritis. And we did a session, and her mom called me up and said, "Oh my God, it's been 2 weeks and my daughter has not taken one pain medication. She has no pain. This has never happened before." And I'm like, great, keep practicing. And that's really like what I find with my clients and people I work with. It's that consistency of actually, this is a tool, and what's going to happen if you don't use the tool. Life will go on as it's going on. But obviously you've all come here to feel better. So then take the tool, use the tool, practice with it, make it your own. It's your own breath. It's so simple, and start feeling better. And that's the thing, we can really just raise our energy level, or even physical pain. It can help with, I've had people with trauma where they've told me, I can remember what happened to me, but there's no emotional trigger anymore when I remember it. And I mean, that's huge. That's incredible. And, the results, like, I'll tell my clients, like, at the very least, after, a 45-minute breathing session, you're going to feel more relaxed than you have in your whole life. Like, that's like the worst case scenario, There's no like bad side effects from breathing, really. It relaxes you and it makes you feel good. So I'd like us to I'm going to set a timer, and we're just going to do 3 minutes. And if you want to turn off your camera, if you're like embarrassed showing your face doing this, but I'm going to describe it and then we'll breathe together. So the first thing is, the inhale is like a yawn. Mouth got to be open. It's going to be awkward. It's going to feel weird, but an exhale is like a sigh. Like you've come home from a long day of work. You sit on the couch, unbutton the top of your pants, and it's soft and it's gentle. You're not going to blow any air out. You're just taking a really deep inhale and then a soft exhale, like a yawn and a sigh. And so as you're doing this, I'm going to start the timer in a second. As you're doing this, I want you to just focus on your body. Imagine like it's a balloon. And so when you're inhaling, you're filling up the balloon, like from your neck to from your head to your toes, but easier to think of like your chest and your belly filling and expanding, and behind into your back and your lower back. You just want to feel everything kind of opening up on the inhale. And then the exhale, you just kind of open your throat and let the air out. Like when you fill the balloon and then you open the balloon, it just comes out naturally. There's no like, right? So we're going to do this together. I'm going to start the timer. And if you want to shut your camera or your mic, whatever, and we'll do it together. I'm going to start it now. Okay. So if you want to close your eyes and just feel your body, that's okay too. And you want the inhale to be as full as you can, just filling up like the balloon as full as you can. And if there's any part of your body that feels like tense or tight, and you can just use your imagination and imagine the oxygen going to that place and like you're breathing into that discomfort, opening it up, and then just sighing it out on the exhale. And you can do this as slow as you want. It's normal, you might feel like a little dizzy or a little tingling, but it can be just a very slow, full inhale, as full as you can, and then a gentle, soft sigh on the exhale, letting it out. Good. Mouth open wide, like you're yawning, and you want to really pull the air in through the mouth, down into the body, and then releasing it. We're just pulling in the oxygen, filling with more and more. And sometimes people have a hard time breathing into their chest or into their belly, and you want them both to open up at the same time. And you can put a hand on your heart and your belly, and then as you inhale, lift them. As full as you can. Pushing back against any tightness, pushing back against any tension, and just filling more and more. And that's our timer. And just take a moment, just sit. We'll just sit for a moment in silence, feel your body. And then if anyone would like to share, it was just 3 minutes, so just tell me how you're feeling.
I'll share with you, Madhavi. This is Felicia. I found it difficult to breathe in through my mouth.
Mm-hmm.
I'm used to breathwork where it's always in through the nose or out of the mouth.
Mm-hmm.
So to breathe in was quite a different sensation. I found myself yawning
Mm-hmm.
through the inhales, which is good because that's relaxation too.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So the body feels calm. It feels good, but it was a mental anguish at first.
Absolutely.
At times I found myself opposite, breathing in through my nose and out through my mouth, or out through my mouth. It just, thank you. I enjoyed that.
I find that, often those who practice yoga, like in a session, I'm constantly having to tell them, open your mouth, breathe through your mouth. And so the question comes in, why are we breathing through our mouth and not through our nose? And so one thing that I learned was with yoga, when we're breathing in through the nose, we're trying to move up into our higher chakras or into our higher self. And in that space, it's peace and goodness. And that's great, you know, but a lot of us can't stay there. What brings us back is this body and our aches and our pains and our story and so many things. And so when we're breathing into the mouth, we're breathing down into our body where those traumas are and where the tightness is, and then we're allowing it to release. And so usually towards the end of a session, I'll do the nose, you know, the in through the nose and out through the mouth to like kind of bring back that balance. But yeah, from what I've learned is that the mouth, and also like when we inhale through our nose, like you can get a good breath, but when you breathe in through your mouth, you can really get like a lot more air. Yeah. So that's the other thing, is like we're bringing oxygen into our body because disease cannot live in a high oxygen environment. Right. So by bringing oxygen into our body, we're bringing it into our lungs, into our heart, through our bloodstream, and obviously then into our whole body, our organs. And so it's another way to help us rejuvenate and bring health and healing into our lives.
Very good.
I felt very tingly, a lot of lovely body sensations. And I do a lot of breath work, but it's all through the nose, into the nose, out through the nose. This was different for me as well, but I liked it. I got used to it. A little dry mouth, which I had to cope with. But I felt the breath was way deep.
Yes.
I was able to take in a lot of oxygenated air quickly.
Exactly. Yeah, we're like over oxygenating. Anybody else want to share how they're feeling?
I felt it right in my head, like a surge of energy went into my head. And also, when we first started breathing, right away I felt some emotions like in the back start coming forward. So I thought that was, I can imagine a longer session, more and more would come up and more invigorating I would become. Just 3 minutes, that was pretty good.
Yeah, just 3 minutes. We all have 3 minutes. Everyone, I mean, no, you know, we don't have time to take care of ourselves, but we all have 3 minutes on the toilet, in the car, whatever. We all have 3 minutes. So I did that kind of short period just to show, like, in just a few minutes, we can bring ourselves into, you know, a little bit more calm. And then of course, more and more, the longer it is. So like for trauma and like deeper emotional things, I do like a full 2-hour session with about 45 to 50 minutes of just breathing. Like this, what we just did, but for that long. And then as Gora's saying, it's like, it's kind of like pulling up a layer. So we have, you know, stuff, whether physical, mental, emotional, and through that breath, those things naturally, it doesn't require any like thinking about what happened. It just naturally, stuff will start to come up and be released. And then that deeper relaxation comes. Would anyone else? Go ahead.
I would say, because when you were describing mantra, how to control the mind earlier, with the breathing, when you automatically go into a meditative state without having to really try. Just by focusing on your breathing, the mind automatically kind of lets go for a minute, and then things can come up.
Exactly. So even like when we're like, if I'm doing some silent japa, or even if I'm just doing breathing, sometimes like on the out loud is hard, but like on the inhale, you can breathe one part of the mantra, and the exhale, the other part of the mantra. And the mantra becomes just part of, you know, your inhale and your exhale as well. And then that's a good set of time too for an inhale, like a whole half of a mantra and a whole exhale. So for those of you that like practice chanting, that's something, just if you're going to do some silent meditation. And it's, you know, we're talking so about, you know, these things. And like in the beginning of a session, I always suggest or set the intention that we're not in control. If we were in control of everything, I'm sure all of us would have like, you know, a few tweaks or changes to our lives. So because, you know, so many things are out of control, my meditation is, I'm just a beggar of the divine, of Radha and Krishna, of my gurus and guardians. And I want to offer them good things, but I have so many bad things inside that are preventing me from feeling their mercy, from feeling that unconditional love, and from feeling that joy and that connection. So as I'm breathing, then my prayer is, as a baker, I'm offering all I have to you, which is all of this garbage, all of these unwanted things. This is what I have. So it's for you. And if you like, you can transform it, you can change it, you can heal it, whatever you like to do, but I'm giving it to you. And also, you know, no matter, it's not even a religious thing. It's like if someone comes to me, Christian, Jewish, Hindu, Muslim, it doesn't really matter. If they're just spiritual, the idea of just, there's this higher power, there's something greater than me that can help me, something that's not suffering in this world. Because if we look around us, everyone is struggling in one way or another. So who will pull us out of that? Someone who is already out of that. So sort of like invoking that and honoring that there is something greater than me, and I'm giving this as an offering, and I'm showing, like, even more than we would our best friend. You know, we have a conversation with our best friend, we tell them all our stuff and they tell us all our stuff. So in the same way, breathing and letting these things come up, letting them out, like that offering, and sharing it with the divine, sharing it with Radha and Krishna, with our gurus, and then having some quiet time to listen, like a dialogue, right? So we share, like we're all having a conversation now. So in the same way, I like to set that intention when we start a session, is that I don't want any of these things, I'm offering them to you. And then if you would like, just like I've shared something of myself with you, if you like, you can share something of yourself with me, and just having that space of listening and receiving that. So kind of in your home practice, if you take time to breathe, chant, pray, cry, repeat, also listening for that guidance. And often when we breathe and that stress goes away, a lot of clarity can come to mind, and a lot of peace can come to mind. And all of those thoughts, you know, are wild horses. When they've like calmed down, then we sometimes have the ability to see things from a different perspective, when our emotions aren't like overriding everything. So as Gore was saying, you know, he could feel some emotion, and you know, it's good. This process is like sitting in the fire of those feelings and just allowing them. And when we allow our emotions, I say it's like the more willing you are to go into like the black hole, those dark spaces, those hidden things that we don't want to face or we don't want to look at, the more willing we are to see them, to face them, to feel them and acknowledge them, and not judge them, but just allow them, then actually our capacity for joy and our capacity for love, it increases. Because when we suppress an emotion, we're suppressing all emotions. We're not just suppressing our anger or our sadness or whatever. When it's suppressed is suppressed, period. And so I find like a lot of people, when they do get in and experience some type of trauma and they release it, that joyfulness comes out like even further, because that other part, that negative part that they were holding on to, it's gone, and there's just more room for that love and that joy. So okay, any questions? And then we'll do a little bit more.
Just want to say that you can imagine with addictions, which is what I'm swimming in, and I've experienced my own addictions as well. You know, there's such darkness. There's such darkness. There's so much difficulty emotionally and mentally, you know, and this type of activity really does lighten it up. It's like shining a light into the dark closet. It's so simple, but yet it really works. And they start to feel happy again. And we want to feel happy naturally so that we don't want to have to go back there.
Yes.
And pick up our addictions again. If we're happy and feeling good, we really probably won't tend to go back. But if we're always in anxiety and fighting the demons in our heads and in our hearts, we're going to look for something to make us feel better.
Mm-hmm.
I always
Absolutely.
present it as a, a natural kind of remedy for those, the stress and the darkness that, and to do the repair work, to even
Mm-hmm.
make their lives whole again. That's a struggle as well. So this
Yeah,
can help.
absolutely. Thank you. Any other comments, questions? No? Okay. All right. So another, we talked about sound vibration. Everything has a frequency. So another component of breathing is making noise, is expressing ourselves and giving a voice to those things that have been shut down or ignored or maybe even expressed, but in the wrong way. So when in the beginning of my training, we did a lot of screaming and crying and shouting, and that's just what I learned, and that's okay. But I learned from another practitioner, another breathwork teacher, something called toning. So it's a way to make noise and to kind of connect to the frequencies within us, but without having a sore throat at the end of it. So I've also noticed that let's say we have discomfort in our head, like a headache or migraine, higher sounds, you'll feel, if you make a high-pitched noise, you actually feel it reverberating in your head. And if it's lower in the body, like down in the belly and gut, then deeper sounds seem to like resonate with those areas of our body, almost like our body is like a scale, high to low. And so like if I do get a headache or migraine, sometimes I'll do this really high pitched, and you might want to lower your volumes, but it's like super, and I'll feel like the area just get more relaxed and more comfortable. And then in the lower, like it could be like so the sound, the vibration, you guys will be on mute, and but so play with it, play with the noise. The idea is that everything has a frequency. So my shoulders are tight. I'm going to breathe into my shoulders, and I'm going to ask my shoulders, what sound do you need to make to come out? What sound is that? What feeling is in there? And then giving it a voice, giving it a sound vibration. And so for some people, actually, they'll say words, like things that they've held on to, like, they're stressed out, holding in their neck and shoulders, and then it's all this anger, and it's like, oh, you, blah, 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 blah. So sometimes it's a verbal expression. Sometimes it's a sound, and sometimes there's emotions that come along with the physical comfort in our body. So I think for this, we'll do like, let me just check the time. Okay, so we'll do like 10 minutes. And I'm going to show you, we're going to do that same inhale. You're going to open your mouth wide, and you're going to breathe in. And then at the top of the inhale, you tighten your chest and your belly, and you're going to keep it kind of tight until the air is all the way out. And so it's tighten, and then just until the breath is out. And then another, as soon as it's out, then another big, and then, and it could be high, it can be low, but you want to keep that really big inhale, every inhale as big as you can, pulling the oxygen within you. And then you tighten at the top, you tighten your belly and chest, and then you keep it tight until that breath is finished. And so everyone is going to have a different pace with this and what that full breath looks like. And then think of it, often we're not used to expressing ourselves in this way or making silly noises. So I'm just going to encourage you to think of yourself like a little kid, like, oh, my shoulders hurt. Oh, my shoulders hurt. I don't like it. Right? Like, so be that child that feel your body, feel it all. And then even if you feel silly and making noises, your microphones are off, nobody can hear you. If you want to like move around or shake or whatever, that's okay too. You can put your camera off, but just like an experiment, right? Just breathing and then toning. So again, just a quick inhale, tighten. And I'm going to set my timer. And if you'll excuse me, I do need to run to the restroom for a moment. And I'll come back and breathe with you and just get into it. Play with it. It's an experiment. Have fun with it. Just breathe in. Feel any tension or tightness in your body and imagine the breath opening and expanding that part and then giving it a voice, giving it a sound, a word, a moan, a groan, or a tone. Just let it out. And I'll be right back. Just give me a couple minutes. And you can do high or low sounds. Play with it. See where you feel it vibrating in your body. And we're just using our imagination. Obviously, we can't breathe into our feet. But if you can imagine breathing into your neck and shoulders, breathing into your face, even your eyes and behind your eyes, your scalp, your neck and shoulders, breathing down into your arms, wrists, and hands, your fingertips. Just using the imagination that you're pulling the energy in, you're pulling that prana or life air deep into the body, into your heart, making sure your chest is rising and your belly into your solar plexus, pulling that oxygen deep into your lungs, into all of your organs, through your bloodstream. It's going into every cell, into every atom of your being, into your hips and thighs, down through your legs, shins and calves and knees, down to your ankles and the tops and bottoms of your feet. to the tips of your toes. Breathing deep, finding any tension, finding any discomfort. Focus on that area and then giving it a voice, giving it a sound, a moan, a groan, or a tone. That's what I like to say. And you can laugh at yourself, you can yawn. If some emotions come up, just a lot of people, when the feeling comes up, they want to swallow, they get an urge to swallow, kind of swallow it down. So if you have some emotions coming up, then just breathe into them even more. Just kind of letting them come to the surface, kind of like a wave, just coming up and out, offering them up to the divine, to Radha Krishna, to our guardians and guides, and just letting them go. And again, that full inhale, tightening at the top, keeping your belly and your chest full and tight, and then just letting the tone, the sound come out. It's okay to laugh, it's okay to cry, it's okay to be happy. Just breathing it in, into the body. And it's totally normal for you to feel tingling, a little dizzy, your mouth to get dry, because we're breathing through the mouth, a little dizzy, but you'll feel that energy moving through your body as you breathe. And you want to still keep the exhale. Don't push it out at the end of the tone. You want to pull the air back in, so you're getting a lot deeper breath. And still that sort of soft exhale, even with the tone. And if anyone has a question while they're doing it, it won't ruin anything to turn on your mic and ask or say something. That's okay too. You can close your eyes and go inwards, finding the tension, finding any tightness in the body, breathing into it and offering it up and out.
I do have a question, Didi.
Mm-hmm.
Is there, I know that you're giving sort of the guidance with this on the proper way to perform this, but is there also a wrong way to do this?
So the one thing that can happen when you're practicing at home that you don't want to have happen is that you exhale more than you're inhaling. And that usually doesn't happen so much with the toning unless you're like, at the end of your breath, and you're like, you'll feel like that push. And so that's what you want to be wary of, is when you're pushing the exhale out. And when you're normally breathing, like without the toning, it would be like, right? And so that's when we're hyperventilating, when we're losing the oxygen more than we're taking in. So that's the only thing you really want to avoid, is that extra exhale. The exhale is always soft and the inhale is just really big, always really big inhale.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. And part of, we're adding sound into it, but if you feel like moving or stretching often, like if you have a tight muscle and let's say it's your neck, that's the easiest example I can show, but like if my neck is tight and I stretch my neck and then I breathe in 3 or 4 times into my neck and shoulder, then that muscle automatically relax. So if you're, in a bed or you're, even on a chair, but like moving your body, feeling it and stretching it out and breathing into it, that's also really can be a helpful component is movement. And you know, if there's big emotions too, like I've seen people throw tantrums in a session like a child would, that's okay. Just really, as you're breathing, being present to what your body's feeling, breathing into it. And, you know, even if it feels silly to like release in a particular way, sometimes the mind will stop us from really expressing what's going on because, you know, oh, I don't want to do that. But as you're breathing, just feel it. And even if it feels silly, just play with it like a game, like a child. Just be in that breath and let whatever needs to come up, come up. And our time is up. So as we did before, just take a moment. You can begin breathing in through the nose and out the mouth, being present. Feel your body, feel how it feels now. And just be in that stillness as well. And whenever anyone's ready, if they'd like to share what that was like for them, I would appreciate.
I don't know.
Okay.
So I'm glad my husband decided to go to the store when this started because I was making some weird sounds like a person who had a horrible voice, but I do have a really bad headache, a sinus headache, and it's so much better right now. I was also wondering if we should, when we breathe out, have our mouths in a certain shape or not.
It doesn't, I mean, I tend to leave my mouth open. So it's like, and it's just because it's like the most open. And the idea is like we're pulling it all in and we're letting it all out. So if like our body, from our mouth was like a tube, then the more like open, the more we can sort of express. But, you know, sometimes it's natural where the mouth will close a little bit, or if certain sounds we make, like I've had people, you know, so it's okay to be natural with it. You know, you don't want it to detract from the experience by like, oh, my mouth is shutting a little bit, or so, yeah.
So I couldn't really hear you because I was so loud, but when I look at it again, I'll be able to hear most of it.
Okay, that's okay.
I was doing like a tuning fork.
Mhm.
I was trying to match the tone for what I needed, and when I hit the right vibration, I was able to go deeper. So I appreciated that. But I'm outside, and I don't want people thinking I'm like,
Yeah.
I had to be a little more quieter than I wished I could be.
Mhm.
I was hearing from the house, sounded like a wolf or something out there. Just
Yeah,
I felt like
go
sorry,
ahead.
there was a lot that needed to come out. It
Mhm.
felt like there was a lot there that wanted to come out.
Mhm.
Like
Good.
we're so, we measure our words, we have to act right, and we deal with so much, and it's stored somewhere. And it was nice that it was able to come out as sound. It felt so good to let out those sounds. Sometimes guttural, sometimes singing, sometimes deeper. I was wanting to get the whole body, so I did the scales, but it felt so good. I feel
Awesome.
like way freed up.
Yes. Good. Anuradha, you want to share anything?
Yeah. Actually, in the beginning, when I started doing it after like the first 2 breaths, I just busted out laughing. And it was a full blown like laugh out loud. And I was on for like a minute, just like that. And it felt good just to sort of let that out. And then as I was continuing through, then I was like, it's true, I do carry like a lot of tension, like mid-scapular area. And it was starting to bother me at first. And I was like, okay, like, let me try. Cause really, it's almost like the moment that I was going through something, then you had like said it and you were like, okay, now you can like go in and stretch. I'm like, okay, let's try this stretching. Like, and then I went into it and I started to do the breathing into the stretch. And then I was like, and everyone was mentioning, like, I think Gora mentioned it, Rasangi Didi mentioned it, about the tingling. And I was like, maybe I'm doing something wrong because I'm not feeling that tingling. But after I did that breathing, I felt it. So this is actually, it's really incredible. I'm like super into this.
Yay. Everybody needs to be. Would anybody else who's not on camera like to share anything about their experience or what's going on or questions? No? Okay.
Well, I had a question. I've done the breath work before, and you get that thing where your hands lock up. And because this was a short session, it didn't happen. But I thought if you could explain that to other people, because that might happen to them, and it's kind of scary at first.
Yeah. Okay. So in most styles of breath work, there's something called tetany that happens. And it's basically what happens is it could be your face, your feet, different parts of the body, but often it'll start with the hands, and they call it like crab hands, where you'll actually like, they'll curl in and they'll feel tight and painful. And so if you're practicing at home and that starts to happen, one, it means that your exhale is too big. You're losing the oxygen. And now, like over the years that I've been doing this, like my clients don't get that anymore. And it's because the toning also really helps to measure the proper breath rate. So and if you start to feel like your hands closing up or anything, then generally if you start toning and you make noise, they'll relax and loosen. And so like a lot of breathwork styles are very rapid as well, like where you're like, and often I'm not a scientist, but often what I feel happens with that is the exhale becomes big. They're starting to like push the air out. And so in the process that I've been teaching the last few years is really a slower breath, a really slow, deep breath, and a really slow, soft, gentle exhale, or adding that toning. And with that, no one gets it anymore. It's just, it doesn't really happen. And so, yeah, if you're doing breath work with other teachers and stuff, you may find that, yeah, they have you do a very fast breath, and it's actually really unnecessary to have like that type of intensity. The slow breathing, it's powerful as it is. Any other questions before we?
Actually, yes. So one, I guess this is more in depth into your field, but it's a question really about how to not self-identify with our problems, our stressors, or our traumas. So can you share a little bit about that, please?
Yes. So that would really start at the basic principle of we're not this body, right? We're the soul, we're spirit soul. Anything that's happening to us that we think is happening to us or around us in our environment that's causing this, it's actually not who we are. It's not like, I'm a spirit soul, truly, even if I don't realize it, intellectually, we can identify that we're the soul, we're not this body. And anything, according to our philosophy, anything that's coming is our karma. It's like past due, it's stuff that we've done. So then the challenge, even with this knowledge, the challenge of actually in practice, now I'm triggered in this moment. What, you know, yeah, I'm not this body, but I don't care. You know, you made me mad or whatever it is. So one thing is, so I should, if you get everybody's emails, Anuradha, I have some bhakti affirmations that I wrote a long time ago. And so I can share those. So
Yeah.
one thing is like our reaction is usually based on, you know, a story we're telling ourselves. It's like this person did this and it means this, or this happened and it means that. So we're putting that label on it. And when I get upset personally, I like to separate myself from people, from like I like to take a moment or a few moments or a few hours, you know, depending, and just go into a space, breathe, and just allow the feelings, allow that stress. Like, oh, yep, there it is. Okay, feel it. Oh, and that stress, I'm so mad. Okay, yeah, you're really mad. Okay, now I'm like so upset and I'm crying. I'm really just sad about it. Okay, then you're sad. And just allowing them. And what I tell my clients is like, feelings are just feelings. It's when we start putting the story on those feelings and labeling them that they become like imprinted and stuck and held on to. But if we can see feelings more, especially as women, we tend to get, it's not just, you know, there's hormones going on. There's so many other things. So sometimes it's not even like our environment, but it's just, you know, what's physiologically happening within us. We don't have control over it. So then sitting with them and just like we did now, just letting them come up, and like waves in the ocean. Sometimes the ocean, you know, it's all smooth. Sometimes it's choppy. Sometimes the waves are, you know, just battling. And so if we can kind of separate ourselves from our emotion, I'm not my emotions. That's not who I am. But still honoring them, acknowledging them, feeling them. And then when there's like, maybe when the ocean is a little bit calm, then we have our intellect and we have our intelligence to really think about and analyze and like look over, okay, I had this feeling, okay. But some of our feelings are coming from like our childhood impressions, like our subconscious from the ages of 0 to 10, our subconscious essentially is like a sponge, and we're just getting impressions over and over. Good, bad, not, it doesn't matter. We're just getting, and then my hypnotherapy teacher would say, we're all just running around educated 10-year-olds trying to make sense of our inner mother and our inner father and the inner child. So when we think on that perspective, then we can start to like observe the story we're telling ourselves, the mantras, essentially, you know, the value that we're putting on a situation or whatever. But the truth is, one, we're not in control of our environment. And things are always going to come at us, whether we like it or not. No one tries for suffering, suffering comes. Everybody wants love and affection and happiness. So when that suffering comes, if we can kind of, the Buddhists call it the observant mind, where I'm not all of those things. I'm going to observe them. I'm going to watch them. I'm going to feel them. And then when I'm calm, now I can have a conversation with so-and-so, or now like I can write that email, whatever it is. Did that?
Yeah, that was amazing. It reminded me of something Srimati Didi would say, is that responsibility is the ability to respond as opposed to reacting. So that's such a, like a knee-jerk thing when we just react in a moment to whatever stress is placed in front of us or trauma. But everything that you said is perfect. Thank you.
Thanks.
And not only do we have the imprints from this life, we know we've had so many lives.
Yes.
So many lives, so
Exactly.
many imprints, right?
Exactly.
We know that as devotees. So these things that are coming at us all the time, you know, the mind is like a monkey mind. So we have to tame it. It's our friend or our enemy.
Mhm.
Krishna says it in the Gita, 6 chapters all about that. So these tools help to calm the mind and make it our friend,
Mhm.
so we can use it and to our benefit and not be controlled by it
Exactly.
and taken down by it.
Mhm.
And
Exactly.
not only that, you know that Arjuna says it's impossible to control the mind. It's nearly impossible. It's hard as controlling the wind. And Krishna says, no, with perseverance and patience, it can be done. I
Mhm.
didn't make that up. Krishna says it in the Gita in the 6th chapter. So if we
Beautiful.
practice,
Mhm.
we can tame the monkey mind and have it serve us instead of us serving it.
Mhm. Beautiful. That's a lot of like our prayers of surrender, Saranagati songs and things like this. You know, it's, I'm not the controller. Krishna is my maintainer and my protector. You know, those even just those 2 things alone are really powerful. And it's like our mind is going to tell us so many things, but we can choose, we can pick and choose what we're actually going to listen. What part of our mind are we listening to? And often the parts of our mind that are speaking to us are that inner parent. Is, you know, someone told us something once and they made that impression, and it's not even like the core of who we are. It's just a summation of what we've been around or what we've been told or what we watched on TV, and our subconscious mind holds on to all of these things. So in hypnotherapy, it's, we have our conscious mind. So like we're all looking at each other, you know, through the computer, we see each other, and it's compared to like the tip of the iceberg coming out of the water. That's the conscious mind. And the subconscious mind is everything under the water, not just the bottom of the iceberg, but everything. So the subconscious, it's like almost like a recorder. It's just taking in everything. And so we have to use our intelligence and these tools and things like this to essentially like rise above. What are all these, make sense? What are all these things? Why am I being propelled in one direction? Why am I going in another? Why am I feeling this particular way? Is it really because this person did that? Or is it because when I was a kid, this happened, now I believe this about myself? And so when someone treats me a particular way, talks, then I must react. So there's so much that is just essentially like pre-programming that we're working with. And when we actually stop to just sit with ourselves, right? And we did 3 minutes and then we did 10 minutes, not a long amount of time. And if we can just take that time and those moments to just feel, to process, then our mind naturally becomes calmer. Like that stress kind of goes away, and then we can see things from a new perspective than from like the same old sort of thing. The other thing, so what I suggest to everyone is when you wake up in the morning, before you get out of bed, you just take a moment, take some deep breaths, you know, a minute or 2, whatever. If you have longer, of course, longer amount of time, and just kind of visualize, you know, we all know what we have planned for the day. So visualize, okay, I'm going to get up, I'm going to shower, brush my teeth, I'm going to have breakfast, then I'm going to go work or whatever it is. But as you're visualizing and you're breathing, you're bringing yourself into that state of calm, into that rest and digest. And then you're seeing how the rest of the day, you're going to maintain that calm. You're almost like you're suggesting to the subconscious part of yourself. You're like making that, hey, so, you know, we might have a hard day, but we're going to stay calm and remember to breathe, right? And so just when you're setting that intention in the morning, it does help. And then when things, you know, go a little wobbly, you can remember, oh yeah, hey, I have this tool. Let me just go in the bathroom, or let me, you know, take a walk, take a few deep breaths and bring myself back to that place I was this morning. And then throughout the day, just ask yourself, am I breathing or am I holding? It's real simple. And you'll know, because a lot of us hold our breath, because as Rasangi Didi or Gail Lewis, as she was saying, that we're constantly being, have this stress coming at us, you know, even our phones, right? Our phone, ding, 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 so many things. Like we're constantly having something coming at us. So we don't have that time to relax and to de-stress. So throughout the day, when those stressors are triggering, we're holding and we're tightening, and it just sort of makes that pattern. And so what we're trying to do now is create a new pattern of flowing breath, of deep breaths throughout the day, and just being mindful. Am I tightening and am I holding, or am I just relaxing? Am I breathing? And so throughout the day, being mindful, then those little things that might normally like annoy us or bother us, they start to become less, because when you feel good, things, you know, maybe not terrible things, but, you know, things can happen throughout the day. And when you feel good, they just don't affect you as much. But if you're stressed out and something happened, it's like that straw that broke the camel's back, like, ah! So keeping calm over time and being aware of the breath will help, you know, your body to relax and your mind to relax. And then at bedtime, one affirmation I like is like, whatever I hear will just help me, or whatever, you know, whatever sounds I hear will just help me relax even more.
Mm.
So kind of setting that intention, because often we're distracted at bedtime by so many things. And so I'd really like that suggestion to our subconscious, whatever I hear, it's just going to help me relax more. And then you can do some slow, deep breathing before bed. And I like to just affirm, like, I'm relaxing, my body's relaxing, my mind's relaxing, and I'm just breathing myself, you know, into sleep.
Mm.
I see a question. Anger, sedating liver. Oh, it's not so much a question. Sure. So, I mean, essentially he's saying, you know, if the liver has to do with anger, and sedating certain liver meridian points can also help controlling unwanted emotions. So of course, like if our body's out of balance, if we're unwell, then it's going to affect our emotional state, and vice versa. Our emotional state affects our body. And so it becomes a vicious cycle if we're not getting out of it, if we're not relieving the stress, and if we're not healing our body, that we feel physically bad, so then we feel emotionally bad, and then we feel emotionally bad, and then it makes our physicality worse. And so working to reduce our stress levels and to release the toxins through our tears and bring ourselves into that rest and digest, into that relaxed mode, it's going to help physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, right? So any more questions or comments?
I actually have a question. I'm actually asking anonymously for someone who's attending, that they sort of had a lot of internal distress, and so they found it difficult to be able to connect with themselves, and so they also found it hard not to get upset at themselves for not being able to connect with themselves. So how sort of to overcome this is, you know, are they doomed? Are they not able to practice breath work, or is it just something that they need a little bit more practice on?
So I had one client that came to me once a month for a year to a group session. And at our last session at the end of the year, she was able to cry, like actually cry. And maybe a few sessions before that, you know, she was able to get like 1 or 2 tears. And her conditioning from childhood was like, if you got hit if you cried, you know, you were punished severely, you were talked down to, you. So the idea of just opening up and you know, she couldn't right away, you know, it just wasn't something she could do, but she kept coming back. And our last session, I mean, she was able to really let loose in a good way, and she felt really good. So what I love about breath work is that anyone can practice it at home. And I think, you know, just taking the time to sit with yourself, and even those negative feelings like, oh, I can't connect and now I'm mad, like breathe into that mad, breathe. Oh yeah, I'm so mad. I'm so mad. I'm so, ah! Right? Like allow it. And that frustration, allow it. And so we're taught so much like, oh, it's a bad feeling. You know, we put a judgment on an emotion and it becomes like, I'm not allowed to feel this. I can't experience this. And then it eats away at us. So what the breathing does is it'll bring up those things. Like you're saying, like it'll bring on like, oh, I can't connect and now I'm not connecting, and that's okay. The thing is to just be okay with that and to keep breathing. So I suggest when there's like really, when there's deeper work to do, at least you want to do 45, if not 60 minutes, and set a timer. And that way, because if you don't set a timer, then the mind will be like, is the time up yet? Is the time up yet? You know, oh, I feel like I've done enough. Like, let me just stop. So setting a timer holds us accountable to really like sit with whatever it is. And the mind will chatter, just like if any of you have tried to meditate before, you sit down to meditate and you're going to be like, I'm going to be so calm and I'm going to focus. And then, oh yeah, I forgot to call that person. Oh, I need to do this. Did I leave the stove on? So in the same thing, when we start a longer breathing practice, the mind will do this. I feel dizzy. My mouth is dry. What am I doing? This is pointless. I don't like it. I'm uncomfortable. I should just stop. So it's allowing those thoughts and allowing those feelings and then to keep going. And it takes about that 45-minute cycle for a layer to be released. And I've been doing this a long time and I've seen so many different reactions. And it's also like once you do about 45 to 50 minutes, it's like getting your engine going, you could say. And those effects will even last like 24 hours. It's like a big push, like really lighting the fire, essentially. And, you know, my teacher, he would say like 1 session per year that we've suffered with a problem. So it's like 5 years I've had a problem, then 5 sessions, 10 years, 10 sessions. And so we also have to look at how long we may have been dealing with self-doubt or dealing with self-criticism or dealing with a trauma. How long has that been affecting us? And even if we push something down, it still affects us physically, mentally, emotionally. And so then taking the time to really do the work of bringing those things up and allowing those feelings. And when it is trauma and when it is intense, in the moment, it can feel like forever. When you're in that feeling of sadness or whatever, it feels like this is it. There's no before, there's no after. I'm just gonna live in this sorrow forever. But with breath work, even though it feels like, oh my God, it's so much, or that it's lasting forever, it really only takes, like, it comes in waves. And that wave of intensity, it's generally only like a couple minutes at most. And then there's like a lull. And then you keep breathing, and then there'll be like more. It comes like in waves. So the longest I've done was about 5 hours. And you know, it was a lot. There was a lot going on. And it was like that, where I started on my couch and I was sitting with my feelings and I was breathing. And then I kind of felt like stretching. So I lay down on the floor, and I'm not like a yoga person per se. I wasn't doing yoga. I was just laying on the ground and I was just stretching and moving and breathing and laughing and crying and being mad. And then it was like calm. And so it's safe to practice for longer periods if you feel like, no, I need more. I want to feel better. So it's like, keep breathing till you feel better. And there will come a point where it's like you're done. Like usually, like clients at the end of a session, they'll kind of fall into it. It almost looks like sleep, like they'll twitch. And sometimes even their mouth is moving, like they're saying something, even though they're not talking. Yeah. And they come into a state of like calm, really calm peacefulness. And it's worth the work. because really, like, we all have our stuff, and if we don't acknowledge it and we don't release it, it's work to function with it. That's work in itself, to deal with all of our stuff. And if we do want to let go of it and we do release it, it does take work. But the benefit of that and the joy that comes from that, and that piece of like unloading the baggage, you feel lighter, you feel better. And so it's work either way. It's just really deciding, you know, what work we're going to do, you know, and how much we want to actually let these things go. And I do one-on-one sessions. I do them online and in person. So, you know, if anyone here feels like they have more stuff and they really want to get into it or get into a practice, I'm available, and you can reach out to me, and I'm happy to share and get everyone feeling good.
Thank you so much. Can I just say that, you know, there's such a thing called spiritual bypass. If anyone doesn't know what that is, Google it, please, because it's when we think we're up here, we act up here, but we haven't really taken care of the mess or the things that are wounded, and then we always come back down. So I look at what I do, and I teach mindfulness, which is a Buddhist practice in my work, but I'm using it to serve people and serve devotees to be better, to feel better, to be more in their power as devotees. You know, we need to have healthy devotees to help the world.
Yes.
And so what we're doing is we're helping create healthier, more vibrant, more energetic, balanced people to serve the world and push on Mahaprabhu's movement and bring spirituality. So to help save the planet, because we have children, we care what we're going to leave, what they're going to inherit. So why not try to get strong ourselves and, you know, bring it as much as we can.
Absolutely.
Thank you very, very much. This is an
Thank you.
amazing tool.
Thank you.
Can I say something?
Mm-hmm.
I was doing this reading about the subconscious, and the subconscious, like, it looks at reality and it makes all these observations and perceptions, and then it builds these assumptions about it. Like, okay, I keep noticing this, it's probably because of this, and then we draw conclusions, and then eventually it creates a belief. And like myself, I'm like walking around with all these self-beliefs, but they're all built on some kind of observation and perception. And you're talking about mindfulness and awareness. It's like everything that is perceived on some lens of emotion. So if you have these angry lenses on, or these sad lenses, or these self-hating lenses, then that's all the perceptions that we see. And then we build all these assumptions and conclusions on top of it. So if you actually want to unfold yourself, you have to actually like go all the way back to your like emotional center, and then sit with it and be mindful of which lenses you're actually perceiving reality through. And I think breathwork can actually help bring the mind back to that space, allow the self to feel its emotions, and then it can change all of its perceptions of reality.
Thank you. Yeah.
Radhe, can I say something?
Yes.
I hope nobody can see me.
We
Right,
can't
my
see you, Tungi Didi.
Oh, okay.
We can hear you. Haribol, pranams.
Oh my God, Radhe. So yeah, I wanted to say, you know, this was really good because like other people, I'm also used to the training of breathing in and out through the nostrils. Now, the benefit of that, there's a lot of benefits to that, and doing this type of breathing through in and out of the mouth, I wouldn't recommend it, especially right now, like around a lot of other people, because like the hairs in the nose, we evolved the hairs in the nose specifically to filter out harmful bacteria and germs, right? But this, it does give a different feeling as opposed to breathing in and out through the nose. I feel that it does oxygenate the body more. And especially like I've been dealing with respiratory issues a lot lately. And I felt that this really helped. So I'm going to start doing this, particularly my respiratory issues. Like I wake up in the morning with very difficult breathing. So, and then what I usually do is lay in bed and breathe in and out through my nose for a while, rhythmically, but that hasn't been helping. So I'm going to try this tomorrow. I'm going to see how that is tomorrow morning when I wake up. And then,
please do.
what the other lady was saying, I didn't get her name, or maybe I did. Maybe it was Gail. I don't know. Oh, okay. The one who says she teaches mindfulness. Okay, yeah. So the beauty of South Asian Dharmic traditions, like Western devotees, for some reason, I think it's because of mostly the Judaic Christian background in the West, they tend to kind of link up with Abrahamic thought more and kind of reject these other dharmic traditions. But Buddhism, Jainism, Sikhi, all these different dharmic traditions of South Asia are sister traditions to Gaudiya Vaishnavism. And the teachings in all of the dharmic traditions, when it comes to ethics and the mind, they're all the same. So Buddhism and Bhagavat philosophy, when it comes to teachings of the mind and ethics, they exactly parallel. And I know for myself, I received a lot of help from, I forget his name now, but he writes a lot of books. He's a Tibetan Buddhist teacher. It's not the Dalai Lama. It's the one who's kind of the opposite Sangha of Dalai Lama. There's some issue going on there. But his books are excellent for teaching people how to deal with the different minds, the concept of the different minds in Buddhism, and really how to develop active, conscious practices of compassion, right? We have the teachings of compassion, Namruchi, Jivadaya, but these specific meditations that were developed in Tibetan Buddhism for meditating on compassion and for projecting that compassion out to all living entities, those teachings are incredibly profound. And I have found that when dealing out, in bhakti, we like to focus a lot on the rasa, the lila, all of these things. But then when you come out into the world, it's like the exact opposite of what you're meditating on. Oh my God, how to deal with that? The opposites are just too extreme. And I found these teachings, these Tibetan Buddhist teachings on the mind and on developing compassion and the practices for developing compassion to be such a beautiful bridge between, the time in the morning when you're spending 4 hours chanting Harinam and meditating on Leelas and all of these things. And then, well, you got to go out the door and you have to deal with, practical life, how to bridge that. It's hard to do. I never could figure that out. It was always like, it's such an opposite thing that I could never bridge it myself. But these teachings are very helpful for that. And I think in combination with this new way of mouth breathing, like a dragon, I think it could be a very powerful tool. So thanks, Madhavi.
You're so welcome. Thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate it. And I want to say, definitely you don't want to be doing this like in a large group of people, especially not these days. And not even all day, but just, on and off, just being aware. And then of course, when in your home, if there's bigger stuff to work on, then, taking a longer amount of time to do it. And as far as respiratory, I've had a few clients, with different respiratory issues who felt, they couldn't really get a big inhale. And when they started the session, they felt like, I really can't breathe. But then after 45, 50 minutes, it's a whole new breath. And they were really able to take in a lot more than they thought. And on another side note, don't want to get political or anything, but I have helped a few long haul COVID patients with this process, and like significant, like big improvement. So if there's, you know, people out there, you know, who are, you know, dealing with this. I had one client who, you know, she'd seen specialists, she's been to the regular doctors, she went to the acupuncturist. I mean, like everything. And in one session, she was like, I'm 40% healed, 40% better after one session. And, you know, we did continue working together, just a couple more. And, you know, I see her, she's up and about, significantly improved. So it's not just, you know, getting our feelings out or whatever, but this process really, it can help us like in so many physical ways. And I could probably spend another hour just talking about different clients' reactions and stuff like that. So I've seen like real, you know, almost miracles from this process. And just from, you know, just from breathing, it's so powerful and it's so simple. So the more, you know, we can share this with others and help them, I think, you know, the better.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah,
Thank
I think
you.
I have all the symptoms of long haul COVID, but I don't know if I was actually, if I ever really had COVID. I don't know. But the symptoms that I have coincide with long haul COVID, but they also coincide with other things, like
Right.
so many other things. So I don't know what it is, but I'm going to try this in the morning tomorrow and see how it works.
Yeah. And, you know, for you, since you're having, you know, like actual health symptoms, I would definitely suggest doing, you know, 30, 45 minutes if you have the time and really, you know, get into it. And you might even, like, I have people like hack up mucus, like it just starts coming up because we're working the lungs, you're working your breath, and, you know, things start to detox from the body, so to speak. So yeah, you definitely try it and let me know. Keep in touch.
Okay.
Yeah, so we've reached not the limit, but we've definitely reached our end goal of 9 p.m. But this is definitely not over. You know, Madhavi Didi is, again, you know, she's accessible to everyone. She's offering these classes on Zoom, as well as, you know, in person for those of you who are actually in the Florida area. But for those of you not, I can try to get you connected with her if you don't already have her contact. So, you know, please feel free to reach out to me, and then I can also provide her email to you as well.
Can you put it in the box? You put it in the chat, Madhavi? Put your information in the chat.
Yeah, I can do that real quick. Sure.
Yeah, and I just wanted to thank everyone who came out tonight. This is, you know, something that, again, we're trying to really, as Tongi Didi mentioned, we're trying to really bridge the gap between, you know, practical life and then also our spiritual lives as well. So sometimes there's a lot of gray in between, and we're just trying to sort of you know, intermingle the two and sort of stay in the gray as opposed to just the black and white. So yeah, so Didi just posted the Prawn Academy, also on Facebook and Instagram. So please feel free to contact her. But yeah, I mean, honestly, Didi, I'm like so grateful. This is my first time ever doing breath work. I've never experienced anything like this before, and honestly, it was amazing. I'm so grateful to you for all of your expertise. As someone mentioned to me, you explain things so well. I can definitely say ditto to that. You just have this sort of way with words of making things very clear. You're a natural teacher, a natural educator, a coach, a guide, a mentor, so many different things. So grateful for this session, and please come back. I'm hoping that, you know, we can make this like a regular thing.
Absolutely.
And more people can get benefited from this. So not just 10 or 11, but, you know, 20, 30.
Sure.
Maybe more.
I'm game.
And not
but
only that, you're so blissful. I mean, that speaks volumes to how we are. Like, how do we live in the world? That speaks
Mhm.
to how we are and what we're practicing. So you seem so happy. And
Thank you.
yeah,
this is good.
yeah.
If you can
absolutely.
upload this to YouTube tonight, I don't know if you have time, I'll forward it to some people.
Okay. Anuradha Didi is doing the upload, and so yeah, she's in charge of that.
Yeah, I'll definitely take care of that, Didi.
Uploaded to which channel? What's the channel name on YouTube?
It's under Anuradha Dasi, but I'll share it with Madhu Didi and then she can send it to you.
Okay.
But yeah, thank you everyone so much. Thank you, Madhavi Didi, for
Thank you.
all your guidance. So many wonderful tips and so many new things that I've also learned. I'm sure everyone will also take that with them. And starting tomorrow morning, gonna start to practice this, gonna do our chanting, our praying, our crying, our breathing and repeating and
Yay.
listening.
Mhm.
So yeah, thank you so much, Didi. And thank you all for coming on and participating. I wish you all a wonderful night. Also, if you're in the East Coast or whatever part of the world, tomorrow's Balaram Jayanti. It's a full moon. So we're very excited in our Bhakti world. So I wish you all a very happy Balaram Jayanti. And I bid you all a good night. Hari Hari
Thank you
Bol.
so much.
Hare
Thank you.
Krishna.
Haribol.
Hari Hari Bol.
Haribol.
Hari Bol.